Welcome to another video. This is going to be a two-part series where I'm going to go through the Super Nintendo wheel, over 800 games. I added over 400 themes to jazz them up, and we're going to see what games I want to add to my favorites category. How I utilize the favorites wheel is I'll not only add my favorite games of all time, but I'll also add games that other people recommend to me, so that way I remember to check them out at some point. I also add games that have nostalgic memories. Maybe in the past, one of my buddies and I had a really good time playing a game, so I'm going to add it to bring back that memory. And while I owned a Super Nintendo, as did my friends back in the day, we would rent games, trade games with each other, so we played quite a few Super Nintendo games, but there's over 800 Super Nintendo games on this list, and we have not played them all, so there may be some hidden gems that we've never even heard of that I want to go through, add to my favorites list, and check out at a later time. And I think this will be beneficial for you watching at home. Even if you don't agree with some of my favorite choices, you can still see other games that pop up, hit the pause button, jot down a note, and make sure you add them to your favorite wheel and check them out on your own time. With that being said, let's start part one of the favorites, Super Nintendo, A through M. Sit back and enjoy. This is my Super Nintendo theme for my Super Nintendo wheel. I got it on the Launchbox forums. It's called Colorful by Viking. I really like it because it not only shows the console and what the controllers look like, as well as sometimes the peripherals like the Super Scope 6, but it also shows the games playing on the TV that you would have played the Super Nintendo on back in the day. It's very nostalgic, I really like it, and it's very sharp, simple, clean, effective. Because a lot of the themes, the music, the sound effects are awesome, I'm going to let that do most of the talking, and I'll chime in whenever I want to add a specific game to my favorites list and let you know why I'm adding it. What a fantastic theme. That just teleports me back to the 1990s playing Super Nintendo with my friends. Alright, in the Super Nintendo wheel, first game up, 2020 Super Baseball. This looks like Base Wars from NES. Looks fun. I'm going to add it to my favorites. And remember, if any of these games look awesome to you that I just scroll past, just go ahead and pause the video, write them down, that way you remember what they are, and you can add them after you're done with this video to your home arcade. Oh yeah, I'm for sure adding ActRaiser. This game I owned on Super Nintendo, and it was amazing. Great music, awesome side-scrolling levels, big boss fights, and an overhead world-building section that was amazing at the time. I'm also going to add the sequel, ActRaiser 2. This one was more difficult than the first game. There was even more levels, more challenging bosses. However, they did take over the overworld, which was disappointing, but the graphics are awesome. I was a big fan of the Batman animated series back in the 90s. Really great show. Love Batman as a character. Never played this game? Let's add it to the favorites and try it out. Aero Fighters, this game looks pretty cool. I know there's a lot of awesome shmups on this. I might come back and add this one. I'm going to see what the other shmups are first. Disney's Aladdin. This is actually a pretty good game. It's surprising. You'd think it's a cheap movie cash-in, but it actually has some really good gameplay, some awesome animations. We're going to add it, and we're going to play it. I love Alien vs. Predator, the arcade game. It was recently an Arcade 1 Game of the Week, and it didn't disappoint. This is the home console version, definitely not as good, but I'm going to add it anyway, play it for nostalgia's sake. Alright, American Gladiators. Me and my friends had a lot of fun playing this back in the day. We actually loved watching the American Gladiators show. I'm going to add this, and maybe when a buddy comes over, we'll play some co-op. Arcus Odyssey. I've never actually heard of this game, I don't think. Maybe I've seen it in an ad in an EGM or something like that. It looks pretty cool. I wish there was a theme for it, but you know what? We're gonna add it, try it out. Maybe it's a hidden gem. Axelay, this is another shmup bullet hell type game. I love the little Mode 7 graphics. We're definitely going to add this and try it out. Looks fun. Batman Revenge of the Joker. I played a lot of Batman games back on Super Nintendo, but I have not tried this one out. Looks like a fun side-scroller with great graphics. Let's add it. I did play this Batman Forever game, and in my opinion, it's not very good. Some stiff controls, and the gameplay is just not very much fun. Oh, Batman Returns. This game, on the other hand, is very fun. Large characters, very colorful, a beat-em-up brawler, kind of like Final Fight. Absolutely a favorite. Battle Clash is a Super Scope 6 game, so it's actually best to play that in the gun game wheel. I'm going to add it here just for nostalgia's sake, and as a reminder, hey, this game's on my system. However, I'll go into the gun games wheel if I'm ever going to play it. So while I love both Battletoads and Double Dragon on the NES, I did not like this game very much. It was just okay. Battletoads and Battle Maniacs, on the other hand, was amazing. Super challenging, awesome graphics, huge characters, crazy boss fights, and a lot of awesome level variation. Definitely has a spot on my favorites list and should be on yours, but I warn you, it's a very challenging game, especially two-player co-op.
Go!
Biometal, huh? It looks like a Gradius clone, like a shmup shoot 'em up. But this could be fun. I'm gonna add it and we're gonna see if it's any good. Brawl Brothers. Alright, I remember playing Rival Turf. My buddy bought that game for $60 and we played the crap out of it. I can't remember if we actually played Brawl Brothers or not back in the day, but it looks like a similar type of game. I'm gonna add it to my favorite wheel and we're gonna try it out sometime. So I'm a really big RPG and JRPG fan, but I didn't get too invested in them until late Super Nintendo, early PlayStation 1 era, so I didn't play the early Breath of Fire games, so I'm going to add both Breath of Fire 1 and Breath of Fire 2, just in case I ever have the time to go through the entire series. That's the great thing about having a favorites wheel. If you want to play a Super Nintendo game, don't know which one, go inside your favorites wheel, and maybe you'll come across a Breath of Fire, and you're like, you know what? Let's give it a shot.
21. Over to 21. Intercepted by 21.
Captain America and the Avengers. This is an awesome arcade game that I remember going to my local Dairy Queen and playing it 4-player. A lot of fun. This is the home console version. Not quite as good. I think it's only 2 players. Still, I'm going to add it in case we're ever in the Super Nintendo wheel and we want to play some co-op. But I'm probably going to go to the main wheel to play the 4-player version. Same here, Captain Commando. Awesome arcade game. This is the home port for Super Nintendo. Let's add it just in case we're in the Super Nintendo wheel. Castlevania Dracula X. Now this is a hidden gem for me. I know Castlevania is a massive franchise, and I love playing Super Castlevania 4, but I never really found this game or was able to play it. Nobody had it that I knew, so I never got to play this game. The music's amazing, the graphics look great, let's add it, and let's play Castlevania Dracula X sometime. Even though I'm a really big RPG and JRPG fan, I never did play Chrono Trigger back on the Super Nintendo. I did play it years later on the DS, I never did complete it, so this is my chance to add it to the Super Nintendo favorite wheel and play the original version. I remember dabbling in some Clay Fighters because of all the advertisements that you'd see in EGM and Nintendo Power, but I never actually got into the games. I was always a Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter guy back in the day, so I never really played these. But if you like these games, they have 3 versions on the Super Nintendo, so add them to your favorites. The Combat Tribes. Alright, this game looks pretty fun. It looks like a Double Dragon style of a game. And look at your character, he's actually larger than all the enemies. That doesn't happen very often. This looks like a fun co-op game. I'm gonna add it. I'm sure this is actually an arcade game as well, so maybe that version's better. But we're gonna add it in Super Nintendo favorites. Alright, business is picking up now. Contra 3 The Alien Wars, one of the very best Super Nintendo games. Pretty much everything in this game is amazing. The graphics, the sound, the music, the massive boss fights, the level variety, the 2-player co-op. Awesome stuff. Very challenging game. Really fun 2-player co-op game as well. It's a very difficult game. We're absolutely adding it to my favorites. It's one of my all-time favorite games, especially on the Super Nintendo. And in my opinion, it's a must-add for anybody that enjoys Super Nintendo games. There are a lot of cartoon side-scrolling platforming games that were actually surprisingly really good. I never really played this Daffy Duck the Marvin missions, but it looks great. Very colorful, big characters. We're gonna add it and try it out. Nice music. Darius Twin sounds like a fun side-scrolling shoot-'em-up like Gradius. Let's add it to the favorites and give it a shot. The Death and Return of Superman. Wow, there's a lot of spoilers in that. I actually read a lot of the comic books. They're pretty convoluted, not the best writing, but you know what? I'm going to check out this game. It looks like a side-scrolling beat-em-up. Let's add it and try out The Death and Return of Superman. While I love Demolition Man the movie, this game doesn't look near as good, so I'm going to skip it for now. So I never played Demon's Crest, but this demon definitely looks like the character from Ghouls and Ghosts, and that guy's super pesky, so it's interesting that you get to play as a character like that. So I'm going to check out this game. Maybe this game's as hard as Ghouls and Ghosts. We'll find out. Let's add it to the favorites, and we're going to try Demon's Crest sometime. The Donkey Kong Country trilogy on Super Nintendo is amazing. I love the digitized graphics, and I even got a VHS in the mail with a trailer showcasing it. It was pretty wild, but it got me excited to play the game. We're going to add Donkey Kong Country. And what's this game? Donkey Kong Country Competition Edition? Not sure what that's about, but you know what? We're going to add it and see what the difference is. Next up is my favorite in the trilogy, Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy Kong's Quest. This game took everything that was awesome in the first game and made it even better. It's a more lengthy game, there's really fun level design, there's awesome boss fights, the combat's really fun, it's very challenging, tons of secrets to find, animals to ride, and an overhead map to explore. Next up is Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble. Now this game should have been even better, but I feel like they did some odd choices that it didn't quite resonate as well as the second game did. I still enjoyed this game, but I never actually beat it, so let's add it to my favorites and give it a shot. Next up is Doom. I played this game on PC. One of my buddies played it a lot as well, and I watched him play, and it was amazing. Really awesome stuff. Now, the Super Nintendo version isn't quite as good. I have a different friend that loves this game, loves the Doom series, so I'm going to add this for him just in case he comes over, wants to play some Doom on the SNES. So here you go. Wow, we're hitting a good run of games here. I'm adding them all. This Doom Troopers, I've never heard of this game, but it does remind me of Contra, the side-scrolling shooter. Doesn't look quite as fast-paced as Contra games, but you know what? This could be a hidden gem. Let's add it and see if it's any good. Dragon's Lair in the arcade is a very interesting game. It's a laserdisc, full motion video that basically plays itself, and you just have to put in these QuickTime event inputs to progress the story. It's really difficult because they don't give you a lot of time to do so. This looks like a side-scrolling game. We're going to add it. I'm going to check this out. Maybe it's a lot easier to play than the full motion video one. Earth Defense Force. I've never actually played this game, but I know it's an arcade game, and these graphics look awesome on Super Nintendo. I think I'm going to check out this game on Super Nintendo as well, and then see how it compares with the arcade. I'm going to add it to the favorites with the rest of the shmup games. So I remember seeing Earthbound ads in my Nintendo Power and Electronic Gaming Monthly magazines, and they had these stickers that you could scratch and sniff, and they smelled horrible. I never actually played this game, never really had any desire to play this game. But years later, I find out this is a cult classic, so you know what? I'll add it, we'll give it a shot. Oh, these Earthworm Jim games, I did play these. They're very weird. I could never get behind the main character being a worm for a head, so I'm not going to add these here, but I understand they are fun games, just not for me. Alright, F-Zero. This is definitely a really enjoyable game. The speed is so fast though, it's very difficult. I never got really good at this game. I was more of a Mario Kart gamer, and I was awesome at Mario Kart, loved playing it. This game I liked playing, the level design was crazy, the speed was intense, but I just was never very good at it. I'd always run into the walls. But we're gonna add it and try it again. So the Fatal Fury franchise is a pretty cool franchise. However, I never had access to this game outside of the arcades because it was on Neo Geo, which was super expensive back in the day, and I played more of the Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter games, like I said. But if you like these games, go ahead and add them. There's 3 of them on here. Final Fantasy is one of my all-time favorite franchises. I never really got into Mystic Quest because it is a little bit different than the other games, so I'm going to skip this one for now and focus on Final Fantasy II, which is awesome. It's Final Fantasy IV in Japan, and this game has an amazing story, a really colorful cast of characters, and I played it on the PSP version, which has updated visuals, but we'll add it here as well. And then we get to Final Fantasy III, which was Final Fantasy VI in Japan, and this is one of the very best RPGs of all time. There are a lot of party members to collect in this game, and there's multiple main playable characters in this, so they branch off, focus on different characters, different events. They're all important, and it's an amazing game. Just when you think the game's over, there's some awesome stuff that happens, and I don't want to spoil anything here, but it was amazing to me when I played this and this happened to me. So absolutely we're adding it. Has phenomenal music, great graphics, awesome combat, and it's a very lengthy game. Really good. Definitely check out the arcade version of Final Fight if you can, because the Super Nintendo port, while it is fun and novel that it is on the Super Nintendo, it's only one player, Guy's not an available character, and there's a lot of slowdown. I'm going to add it just for nostalgia's sake, but definitely check out the arcade version. Final Fight 2 on Super Nintendo, on the other hand, does bring back co-op, so that's an awesome addition, and there are 3 playable characters this time, instead of just 2. However, the game's not quite as much fun as the original. It's still worth adding to play the entire trilogy. And that brings us to Final Fight 3. Again, it's a 2-player co-op game on Super Nintendo. There's actually 4 playable characters this time, each with their own special moves. This game does have a unique feature where you can add in a second player as a computer-controlled player. So you can play co-op by yourself. Pretty fun. And while Final Fight Guy was an awesome idea, let's do Final Fight 1 right and bring back Guy. The problem is they omitted Cody and still didn't bring back the co-op. What's up with that? If the fireman was just on an 800 name list, I would never give it the time of day. But because this theme is awesome and the graphics look awesome in the video, I'm going to try this game out. Maybe it's a hidden gem. Maybe it's not very good at all. If not, I can always remove it from my favorites. But I'm going to give it a shot because the theme was cool and the video looked neat. Flashback's a game I always thought had a unique art style to it. I remember it as a Sega Genesis game, which I never had. I'm not sure if we ever did actually rent it or not. This must be a port, but you know what? We're going to add it to our favorites and try it out sometime. Gradius is another awesome shoot-'em-up franchise. I never actually played Gradius 3, I don't think. I played the newer versions of the game, but this game looks really fun. It's a little bit slower paced, but we're going to add it to the favorites and try it out. I played the arcade versions of Gun Force 1 and 2. Both of them are pretty fun. The second one especially has some awesome stuff. They're side-scroller shooters, kind of like Contra or Metal Slug. Very fun. I'm going to add it here because I've never played the console version. So I've never heard of this game. What is it, Hogany, The Final Conflict? It looks awesome. It looks like a Ninja Gaiden game with awesome graphics. I'm absolutely going to check this game out. To me, this looks like a hidden gem. This is exactly why you have a favorites wheel. I might not have time to play it now, but I definitely want to check this game out. Add it to my favorites, and let's play it some other time. Hammerlock Wrestling, huh? Never heard of this game. I do like the little animations at the top and the bottom of the screen. Makes me at least want to give this game a shot. I'm going to add it to my favorites wheel, check it out. If it's not very good, we'll remove it. Harvest Moon's a franchise I never really got into. It's a little too slow paced for me, so I never really got into it. So if you like it, go ahead and add it, but I'm going to skip it. I loved the Home Alone movies as a kid. I thought they were very entertaining, so of course I wanted to play the games. However, the games were really hard and weren't as cool as the movies, I didn't think, so I'm just gonna skip them for now. But I definitely like the movies, and if you like the movies, you might as well try out the games. I've already done it, and I know they're not for me. The Ignition Factor, huh? Another firefighting game. Since I put the other one on the list, I might as well add this one, compare the two, see if one of them's really good, see if they're both good, or see if they're both a waste of my time. Let's add them and find out. Alright, here's another RPG I never really got into on the Super Nintendo, Illusion of Gaia. I heard it's really good. I should probably add it to my favorites and give it a fair shot sometime. So I'm going to do that, and we'll see if I end up becoming an Illusion of Gaia fan. So I'm a big Marvel fan, but I tended to gravitate towards the X-Men games and the Spider-Man games. I never really played this Incredible Hulk game. It's probably not that great, but you know what? I'm going to try it out and see for myself. So I'm going to add it to my favorites, and we're going to move on. Now, I do really enjoy the Lord of the Rings trilogy. However, this game doesn't look that great. I never did play it back in the day, but it doesn't look very fun to me, so I'm just going to skip it.
The answer is... The answer is...
So I was a really big fan of Jim Lee's art in the 1990s X-Men comic book run, so when he left Marvel to go to Image, he produced this comic book called Wildcats. The art is amazing, however the stories aren't the greatest, so I never actually played this game back in the day, but you know what, now I can, add it to my favorites. We're going to check out Jim Lee's Wildcats. So I've never heard of this Jim Lee The Lost Dimension in 3D. The graphics look actually really good, and I like when he moves how it rotates and scales in the background. Very cool. You know what? We're going to add this game and find out if this is a hidden gem or not. So the Joe and Mac games are fun little side-scrolling platforming games. They're nothing super special, but they're definitely enjoyable to play. So I'm going to add both of these games to my favorites, check them out sometime, and see if I can complete either one of these games. Joe and Mac 2, Lost in Tropics. The graphics look really good here. I'm definitely adding this one as well.
Set 16.
The Jurassic Park, the game, is actually pretty cool because of the top-down perspective. It's a really neat perspective for the game as you navigate the park. It's not quite as action-packed as you would like, but you know what? We'll add it and try it out. The sequel, on the other hand, doesn't look like it fares as well. It tried to be more action-packed, I suppose, but the gameplay is not quite as good. Next up, we actually have some Jim Lee art in the background. Love his art style. As for the game Justice League Task Force, I've never played it. I really love the Injustice games made by the Mortal Kombat team. You know what? We'll add this, give it a shot, see if it's any good. I wasn't a huge fan of baseball games, but Ken Griffey Jr. Presents Major League Baseball changed that. This game is phenomenal. It has fun arcade gameplay, but yet there's the simulation of doing the entire season. You can name your characters. We kept track of all of our stats back in the day and all of the rosters we named, kids from our school, our favorite Marvel characters. You could break baseball bats over your knee, yell at the referee. It was such a fun game. We're absolutely adding this. And even if you're not a fan of sports games, you might want to check this out. It's like an NBA Jam where it's just pure fun. Unfortunately, the sequel, in my opinion, Winning Run, isn't near as much fun. Definitely stick to the original. All right, next we got Kendo Rage. This looks like a side-scrolling platformer action game. This could be fun. Probably not that well known for a reason, but it might be a hidden gem. Let's add it to the favorites and see if it is. So I did play some Killer Instinct back in the day, and it was fun for what it was. However, it didn't have the depth that I liked from the Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat games, but I did really enjoy the new Killer Instinct game. So you know what? I'm going to add this one to my favorites and give it another shot. The King of Dragons, this is also an arcade game that's probably better to play the arcade version. However, this game is a lot of fun, so if you only can play it on the Super Nintendo, you might as well check it out. Add it to your favorites if you like the Golden Axe type games. So the King of Monsters games, I had a friend that was really into these games. I think he even paid $60, $70 for these, but we found out they were pretty shallow, so we didn't get too much gameplay out of them. But if they're your jam, go ahead and add them. The Kirby franchise I always viewed as more of a kiddie franchise, so I never really played too many of these. I felt like they lacked the challenge that the Mario games had. To my surprise, I played the newest one, Kirby and the Forgotten Lands, and it actually was a lot of fun. There were some neat challenges to do, and it was actually pretty fun to play co-op. So maybe I'll go back and play some of these older games. I'm not going to add them for now because there's just so many of them, but if I ever get the itch, I know where they're at. Knights of the Round is another Super Nintendo port of an arcade game that's best played in the arcade. You can play up to 3 players in the arcade, whereas on the Super Nintendo you can only do 2. But you know what? I'm going to add it to the favorites, and we're going to check it out just to see for ourselves. That's some iconic music right there. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past is one of the very best games, especially on the Super Nintendo. It's a must-add and a must-play for anybody that has a Super Nintendo. So we're going to add it to our favorites. The overworld is wonderful, packed with challenges and collectibles and secrets. Really great dungeons, awesome weapons, great boss fights. I can't say enough. Lemmings, on the other hand, never played them, don't really want to play them, so I'm going to skip these. Lethal Enforcers is definitely a really fun game. It's in the Gun Games wheel. I would definitely recommend playing it there instead of in the Super Nintendo wheel, so I'm not even going to bother adding it here. The Lion King is a fun, side-scrolling platformer, definitely worth checking out, like the Aladdin game before it, and maybe that Daffy Duck game is going to be. So I'm going to add it to my favorites, and we'll try it out sometime. So these Lost Viking games I know are popular as well. We may have rented them a time or two, and they were fun for what they were, and I do remember seeing a lot of advertisements for these in EGM and Nintendo Power, but I'm going to skip them for now. I never actually played these Lufia games. I do like action RPGs, and I do like games like Zelda with the top-down view, so maybe these would be pretty fun, but they're probably long games, so let me know in the comments down below if you've ever played these games, and if you would recommend them, or if you'd recommend other games. I probably should just add them to my favorites, but you know what? I'm going to skip them for now, and maybe I'll come back to them. So I love Mario games, but I've never actually heard of this Mario's Missing back in the Super Nintendo era. I heard about it years later. Maybe I'll check it out sometime. Probably not a very good game, but you know what? Let's add it to the favorites and see for ourselves. Mario Paint, on the other hand, I thought this game was really fun back in the day. It came with a mouse and a mouse pad, and you could do your own drawing and painting. I remember getting this guide that actually showed you how to draw Street Fighter characters, and I would spend hours doing that. I have no idea if this game actually works in the Super Nintendo wheel. I do have a trackball that works as a mouse. Maybe it will work. We'll give it a shot and find out. More unknown Mario games. Fun with letters? What the heck is this for preschoolers?
Let's go to Last Letter World.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna skip this one.
You found the medium blue circle.
Probably okay to skip that one as well. Okay, definitely skipping this one as well. Come on, there's gotta be something good coming up. Mario's Time Machine, another game I never heard of. This one at least looks like it's respectable. Maybe it's good, maybe it's terrible. We're gonna add it and we're gonna find out about this one. Mario's Time Machine. Marvel Superheroes and War of the Gems. I remember playing the arcade game, but that was a fighting game. This game actually looks like a side-scroll platformer action game. Definitely gonna check this game out. Not sure about this Captain America breathing underwater, but we're gonna add it to our favorites, check it out, and see if it's any good. Maui Mallard and Cold Shadow? Looks like a DuckTales game. Has some pretty good production values. Never heard of this game. I probably should add it. Maybe it's a hidden gem. I'm gonna skip it for now though. Now we get to the Mega Man franchise. Definitely some awesome games in the Mega Man series. I was always a big fan of them. Loved how you could defeat the bosses in any order, get their weapons, use them against them. The final levels, though, were always so hard. I'm gonna add Mega Man 7 here. Mega Man Soccer, huh? Is this like Mario Soccer? This could be a lot of fun. It looks like it's just Team Blue against Team Red, but if you can have the bosses in this, it's absolutely worth an add. Let's try it out and find out. And now we come to the Mega Man X series. There were 7 games up to this point in the original franchise, most of them on the original Nintendo. So Super Nintendo started a Mega Man X with new lore, new villains, new special moves set in a future timeline. There's Sigma, the big bad, and Zero, one of your sidekicks. Let's add all 3 of the trilogy that was released on Super Nintendo. All 3 of them are worth playing, very stylish, awesome graphics. And it was really cool too because some of the games you're allowed to play as Zero, so definitely adding all of them. Next up, we have another Super Scope 6 game, Metal Combat Falcon's Revenge. It's actually the sequel to Battle Clash, which is a really fun game. Again, it's best to play them in the Gun Games wheel. I'm going to add this one though, because it's fun. I'll see it in the Super Nintendo wheel, and I'll be like, oh yeah, let's play the Super Scope 6 in the Gun Games wheel. I never got into the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers as a kid. That was kind of after my time, but I do know it's super popular, and I think it's still going on today. So you know what? I should try out some of these games. This looks like a side-scrolling beat-em-up. It might be fun for what it is. The graphics don't look too bad. Let's add it. And now we got Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the Fighting Edition. Okay, so this is like a Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat style game, where you're the Zords, apparently. All right, let's add it, check it out, see if it's any good. And then the last game is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie. Okay, so this looks a lot like the first one that I added. Might as well add this one, see if this one's better or worse than it. Now we get to one of my all-time favorite fighting game franchises, Mortal Kombat. This game was revolutionary in the arcades. The digitized graphics were amazing. The blood was awesome. As a kid, you're watching that, you're like, what am I watching? It caused such great controversies back in the day, and it made you even want to go see it and play it even more. The Sega Genesis version has blood. The Super Nintendo version unfortunately has sweat. Watch Sonya here as she punches Scorpion. All it is sweat. You know what? I'm going to add this version, even though it's the inferior version, just to check out that sweat. The games are out of order here, but this is Mortal Kombat 3, another great addition to the franchise. They did add a lot of new characters because they did take out all the ninjas, which wasn't a popular decision at the time, so they eventually did Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, which we'll talk about that in the second video, but I'm going to add this one as well. And then we have Mortal Kombat 2, one of the very best arcade games. I remember bringing my EGM magazine with all the special moves and fatalities to the arcade just so I could pull off the moves. However, it was always impressive when someone could knock you into the dead pool, perform a fatality, babality, friendship on you without even looking it up. Such a great game. Definitely a must play. Musha, another game I've never heard of. Looks like it's a Ninja Gaiden style game. Doesn't look quite as good as some of the other ones that I added, so I think I'm going to skip it for now. And that completes part 1 of the favorite series, Super Nintendo A to M. Stay tuned for part 2, N to Z. Let me know in the comments below if there's any games that I missed that you would strongly recommend that I check out and add to my favorites wheel. Also, let me know if there's any themes that you have that I don't have. I love to have all the splashy themes when I can. I added them from Hyperspin FE, Launchbox forums, wherever I could. There are a lot of amazing creators out there. I want to thank Jokerbone, Neo207, Mega Man X0, Rafa80, Tochiro999, NYNY77, Control-Alt-Delete, and anyone else that helped create some of these themes. They're amazing. They bring life to the games, even games that may not deserve it. I love that these themes are created. So keep up the great work. I'm going to continue to try to fill out my Super Nintendo wheel as best I can. So stay tuned in the next video. You'll see more themes, more games, more favorites added, and we will complete my Super Nintendo favorites wheel, which will culminate in a 10 top games featuring Super Nintendo. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, ring the notification bell for all future videos, and if you are able to donate directly to the channel, click on the PayPal link down below. Thank you for your support, and remember, we're in the endgame now.